So what you just saw was the Chief Bracket Factory Test Pilot, aka Nat, getting some miles in. And that's because very soon she's going to be testing the Ner-a-car. The goal is to get it rolling down the lane, powered by gravity, to test out the steering and the brakes. She's going to be wearing period attire for this test drive. Now, we haven't quite worked out which kind of attire she's going to be wearing. There are a few choices to be made, so we'll have to think about that. But the main thing is that I've got to crack on and finish it. Well, at least finish what I need to finish for her to have that test drive. So let's get cracking. Right, we're back at the bench and the metal has turned up and these new bushes have turned up. And if you remember from the last episode, the plan was to make a new bush for this part here, not for this part, for this part in there, in the same way that it is for this Austin 7. But there's been a plot twist. And the plot twist was triggered by a comment from Gary Sweetman. And he said, there's no hole in the bush for here in the same way as this one. So I investigated, and by Jove, he's right. There is no hole. And I've cleaned it all up. And now actually, this is quite a nice sliding fit. So what had happened is that this is meant to run inside here and be clamped by that tight. What had happened is that this had gummed up, and instead of that rotating in there, it had ended up rotating on the bolt, and it wore out the inside of that and the bolt. So it's kind of good news really, because it means that actually the condition of the bearing is actually pretty good. And if I then put this all back together again and tighten it up really tight, I'll do that now. So now the clevis has clamped the sleeve tightly so it doesn't rotate. And now it works beautifully. In fact, there's not even any play in it. There's no play in it. So by sheer weird fluke, what had happened to it had stopped it wearing out. So that's all right. So that's good news. So thank you, Gary. I may have got there in the end, but I'm not sure. I was all ready to machine up one of these, measure that, press it in, drill a hole, blah, blah, blah. Not needed. That's fine. So that means we can now focus our time and energy on making a new one of those out of that. So back at the bench, this is the old one, this is what I started off with, and this is what I made. So this is old and new, compare and contrast. So notice my new one has got a bigger surface area at the top because the top of the handlebars actually presses against that, so it's a sort of bigger bearing surface. This one has all been sort of filed and fettled and what have you. So just a reminder how this actually fits into the tube. So this slides in here like that. Not meant to be an interference fit, this one. Sliding fit. And what I now need to do is I now need to cut a slot in there. And you've guessed it, I'm going to use a hacksaw. So that it will pinch tight when I assemble it all. So let's do that now. So slot now cut. I did consider using two blades sandwiched together to do a wider cut, as recommended by Mr. Tweed of Tweed's Garage, which is a good tip. Didn't need to because it's actually quite a close fit. But what it does do, it makes an awesome kind of fighting knife sword fight noise when you take it out. Look at that, listen to that. Anyway, less of that mucking about. Let's try it all on the bike and see if it actually works. Right, let's see if it all fits. So this is getting a little bit tighter. Now it's tight. So that the split in that and that and that means this is now tight in the top. A tiny bit more. So now we're going to nip up the bottom ones. Right, that's solid. So now we're going to stick the bars in. Bit of grease on it. Bit of grease on this. Push it in. Right. That feels great. There's no slack, there's no perceptible movement at all. That is absolutely solid. Cool. Right, back to the bench to take stock. Right, I'm back at the bench and I brought this with me and I've taken it off and left it in this clamped position because this is the right position. And the reason I brought it back is because we still have this bit. Now this bit was attached to that. Well, it kind of came off and I was deciding whether it was welded on or it wasn't welded on, and I've come to the conclusion it must have been fixed on, because if it's not fixed on, it doesn't serve any purpose at all really. But if it is fixed on, it serves two purposes. Firstly, if it's welded on, it stops this tube sliding up by pulling the handlebars out. And secondly, if it's welded on, it stops this spring, which goes on here, trying to push the steering column out of the bracket downwards. So the bottom line is I'm going to weld it on. I'm going to put 4 chunky tacks on it. I'm now going to be inundated by Ner-a-car owners saying, no, it was never welded. But, well, when I say inundated, there won't be anybody, will there? Let's face it. So let's go and weld that on, come back and offer up the spring, etc. Right, now back at the bench for a bit of a post-mortem on this job. And it is nearly a post-mortem because I nearly did just kill this. So what happened is that I tacked this piece on here and the tacks cracked. And I thought that's a bit weird. So I went harder, more heat, more weld, and I welded it on. But then when I went to put the shaft back inside, didn't go inside, did it? And what happened is that the heat had blown out the this bearing on the inside. So with the benefit of hindsight, I worked out what happened. So this bearing is oil impregnated and it's obviously running, you know, tight up against the inside of this steel tube, which is only 1 millimeter thick. So the minute you do a weld, it vaporizes the oil and it instantly cools down the weld, which causes it to crack. So that's when you saw the puff of smoke come out the top when I welded it. So I then had to put the back in the lathe, put the boring bar back in there, clean up the damaged area of this bearing, and had to basically recover it. I've also had to machine down these welds slightly so that my spring, which I've cleaned up, fits on all right. So at this stage I can either kick myself to death and say, bloody hell Chris, you should have worked that out in advance, or I can say, well, that was a lesson learned, wasn't it? And hopefully I'll remember that and not do it again, and hopefully you can learn from that. And secondly, it means I can hone my recovering from my own cock-up skills, which is also quite a useful skill. So all good now, sorted out. What I'm going to do now is just put it back on the bike, double check it. I won't bore you with that. And then the whole thing needs a lick of paint, and it needs sticking back on the bike, because I want to move on. I've had enough of this column. I want to move on to something else. So let's sort that stuff now. So here it is after a bit of painting, and that's what it looks like. So painting wise, I use this stuff, Simonize, really good paint, thoroughly clean with brake cleaner, then 3 thin coats, 10 minutes between coats, that dries, and it gives a very nice finish, quick drying, very good. I'm sure you'll agree it looks quite nice. My only slight concern, it's too nice. I don't care about that because that looks like aluminium and that's hidden, but this is now going to look a little bit too good. So I'm going to put it back on the bike anyway and take a view. I may attempt to sort of patinate this a bit, not sure yet, jury's out, but I think it's time to stick the whole lot back on the bike. So there it is, all bolted on, and you can see how the spring fits on. There's actually a Woodruff key which ties the arm to the shaft. It's nice and smooth at the same time as tight. Not completely bolted up yet. I'm going to take it off and put the correct bolts in, but I just wanted to test all this and it's all fine. So obviously the next step now is to connect up the linkage to the front wheel. I need to put the front wheel on, but if I put the front wheel on, the whole thing will tip forwards. So what I'm going to do, oh, incoming, what I'm going to do is put all of this back stuff on. There's like the structural rear mud guard, tank, seat, all that stuff. Stick that all on, which will allow me to put the back wheel in, so that it counterbalances putting the front wheel in. So it might be time to get the pressure washer out. There goes the cat. Oh, by the way, you may have noticed chassis, yeah, has moved position. Coming soon. So it's a lovely warm morning and a perfect day to tackle this lot. So here we have the rear guard, the rear kind of structural seat tank thingamajig, the footrests, and of course the tank. So I'm going to do the usual treatment to clean it, blast it, give it a lick of oil. Bit of elbow grease expended, and the pile of mud and, well, dirt is amazing considering it's only off one of these parts, but you can see how intricate this pressing is. A mate of mine, Andrew Goodfellow, needs to make one of these from scratch. That's going to be interesting to watch. I'll update you when he's made that. It's going to be fascinating. But anyway, next step is to yeah, jet wash it and give it some oil. So all these parts now cleaned and preserved, and they continue to tell their story. This is the main sort of seat slash tank pressing. Quite a complicated thing, and you can see it's been repainted at some stage, sort of hand brushed, repainted, but generally in pretty good condition after it's been cleaned up. So that can go straight on as it is, doesn't need any work. This is the rear sort of inner mudguard which I took off, so notice how it's kind of got this offset bit. This is for the chain, no doubt. Again, that's not bad, survived quite well. Only a little bit of rust down the end, otherwise it's solid. This is the tank, obviously had a repaint at some stage, but a long time ago, and whoever took it off decided to replace it with these leather straps, and you can see it's basically just a leather belt. You can see the holes there, and in there. It does make you wonder who owned that belt and when, doesn't it? And this is the rear mudguard. Now, I don't think these side panels are original, but it's been done very well. It's been welded, and it's got rolled edges at the bottom. It's quite nice. This is all quite cool. Again, possibly not original, but obviously very old. This rubber, it's called the Flexible Lamps Limited London Rubber Light. Yeah, I've yet to sort of go in there and delve deep, but that's all good so far. So that lot's all come out quite nicely, so I think it's now time to stick it all back on the bike. So back in the garage, about to start sticking the back end on, but the first thing I'm going to do is stick this tube back on, and this tube, it sort of connects the rear end of the chassis like that. I'm going to leave that in there. And it's connected with this rod, threaded rod on each end. But the odd thing about this rod, it's an odd rod, is that it's got these sort of offset end bungs. Now, I really don't know what they're for, why they're offset. Obviously for a reason. I don't know what the reason is. If you know, maybe you can tell me. Let me know. But anyway, first things first, let's stick that back on. Right, we're now putting in this connecting tube, this offset bolt. Using these particularly spiffing Austin spanners, and this happens to be 7/16 BSF. Now, having put this on, I made it such that the offset was at the bottom, but of course if it was different and one was high and one was low, then it would put a twist in the chassis, and that is possibly why they're offset, is so you can either put in a twist or remove a twist from the chassis. So that might be why it's there. Don't know, what do you think? But the next step now is to stick some of that body on. So this rear section's gone all right. I don't really know what to call this. Is it the rear support bodywork frame superstructure module? I don't know. Suggestions please on what to call that. The rear guard's gone in all right. The tank's gone in. I still need to sort out the fuel tap at some stage, but that's not needed for the crucial mission. So now the seat. Right, these are all the seat parts. That's obviously the base, leather base on a frame, and he's got these sort of ingenious brass quick release brackets, which obviously needed because you need to, well, I'll show you how they're used later. The springs, which I've started to clean this side up, This side needs doing, and it's bent. This is the main pin, also bent. Again, you can see there's a little worn shoulder there, just more indication of how many miles this thing must have done. It's bonkers to think that this was somebody's means of transport for probably years. Well, not that bonkers. Anyway, let's sort that out, clean those up, maybe clean up that a little bit, and stick it on the bike. Time to straighten out this pin. I've just put it in the chuck, so I'm just going to bend it by hand. It's my first attempt. That's not bad. Let's see, down a bit there maybe. Ooh, bit too far gone. Right. So what I'll do now is I'll move it a bit further in, like that. Okay. Right, got this tube to slide over it now, make life a bit easier. It's not bad, that is not bad at all. Right, that'll do. That's the damn sight straighter. So let's put that with a pile. Now to sort out this bit, it's in the vise. I'm just going to lean on it. Yeah, that's done it. I think that's fine. I'm going to have a tidy up here. It's getting out of hand, isn't it? So that's now all the parts for the seat done. So at the risk of repeating myself, I'm clearly not restoring this thing. I'm just making everything work. So I've straightened things out. I clean off loose rust and paint. I protect it, and that's about it. It still can be restored at a later date, but not by me. So time to stick this lot back on the bike. Right, the seat is now on. It's gone on all right. Obviously, you push it down, it springs like that. This is not ideal. It's as if it needs some slightly longer spaces, which is obviously very easy to do, but we'll do that at a later date, I think. So I think that's all pretty good. What I might do is just take it outside and see it in the light of day. But before we go outside, I just want to share with you something that Nat and I saw on the motorway the other day. We were on the way to the climbing wall and we saw this. That is absolutely awesome.
What is it?
This is Cummins Railton. what do you think of that? Pretty awesome, isn't it? It's the Cummins Railton, and it's inspired by the Napier Railton, which was the land speed record car, Brooklands special, that's at the Brooklands Museum. And it contains, no surprises here, a Cummins diesel engine, nearly 500 horsepower, which is pretty awesome. It was only built a few years ago, so it's, you know, it's not a 1930s car, it's a new car, but spectacular nevertheless. So if my American LaFrance V12 engine car turns out anything like that, I'll be delighted. Anyway, let's go outside. So here it is out in the sunshine, and we can review what we've actually done. So we've obviously sorted out all of this stuff here. Put all this on, finished it off, put that lever on, and rear bodywork is now, well, that bit's fitted, tanks on, seats sorted. I've just plonked that on so you can see what it looks like. Looks quite cool, doesn't it? So if we're in order to meet the mission, we have to put the back wheel on, put the pedals, the side plates on, and connect the brakes, and we have to put the front suspension on and connect the steering arm to the front wheel. But if you want to see any of that, you're going to have to tune in next time. So if you liked that, please do hit like. Please do leave me a comment. What would you do about that steering column? Would you patinate that or not? Or would you leave it as it is? What sort of period outfit do you think the Bracket Factory test pilot should be wearing? If you want to support the channel, please consider getting one of these t-shirts or some of the other merch available up there. And don't forget to hit subscribe, otherwise you won't get to find out when the next video is. So I think for now, that's just about it. So thanks for watching.